humor as us, as an example. So really thinking about who we are as a brand is step one. And then step two is thinking about the other side of things, which is who our customer is. So I get this all the time where I ask someone, who's your customer? Who are you selling to? And they will always say, everyone. Everyone is my customer. Everyone can use my product. And then that may be true. 100%, that's definitely, it can be the case. But that's not going to help us in a marketing sense. So when someone asks you who your customer is, we do want to get quite niche, because the best way that you can build a community and a following and have success on social is by having a group of like-minded people in one place. And it's going to help you with your content creation. It's going to help you with what you talk about and what you focus on as well. So think about, okay, if I did have to kind of have a specific audience, who are they? Not just age and gender. Like, what are they interested in? What are their pain points? What are their needs? What do they love? What can we actually give these people? And I think what we're trying to really do is find, I think...
Hanga naman yung internet ko.
Like a Venn diagram. But we've got us and we've got our customer. We're finding that overlap. So when we know who our customer is, thinking, how do they speak, right? Who do they connect with? Do we need to speak to them in a way that has a bit of humor and relatability, or do they need a really kind of trustworthy and kind and caring tone of voice, or are they very matter of fact, right? Like, what are their pain points and needs, and how can we relate to that? Do we have stories? If, let's say, as an example, we said our customer was, busy mums. I mean, all mums are busy. Let's say busy mums that, are trying to juggle 10,000 things at once. How does our story relate to their pain points? How can we share that and relate to these people? What do they love? How can we give them more of what they love? And what kind of value can we bring to their lives? And this is why it's so important to kind of hone in on one group of people, because if you are trying to say, how can I bring value to everyone, all of a sudden that becomes very, very difficult to answer. But if we can say, how can we bring value to this subgroup of people or this segment of people, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier to answer. Now, what we're trying to do and how, personal branding really works well on social media is we want to kind of get this message across, this, I relate to you, I understand you, I'm just like you. And this is where you really start to build those communities, right? If someone reads a post you've done and they're like, oh my God, they get me. Like, that's exactly how I feel. That's, the exact problem I'm having. Or, I felt like that all year. It's that connection that we feel when we feel like someone just gets us and they're just like us. They understand what we're going through. And so by trying to figure out what that kind of intersection is of, here's everything we're about and our purpose and our beliefs and what our story is. And then over here is, okay, well, here's everything they care about. If we can cover that overlap, we are going to get this connection. And by proxy, we're going to build trust with those people. And like I said, building trust is one of the biggest things that social media can do for us, but B, really, really important in this era of COVID where people are really, difficult to trust others. And they're not just going to take what you say, verbatim without you actually building that relationship with them. So how are we going to do that is the question. How we're going to kind of get to this point is actually knowing what our story is. And when I say story in this sense, story is really your personal brand, right? We all are, pushing and selling similar products, if not exactly the same product. So our personal brand, our story is the thing that's going to set us apart. It is the thing that makes us unique. If we were all on social media and all we were doing was posting about USANA products without a personal brand, we would have hundreds of similar accounts, right? All saying the exact same thing. So we need to think about what our personal brand is, what is our story, and how can I get that across? It should kind of represent your values, your purpose, your beliefs, your vision. It should be the thing that drives loyalty and connection to people. Right? People don't connect with products, they connect with people. And ideally, if we can build that connection, we are going to build conversions for people to buy our product. And I said this earlier, right? People don't want to be sold to. They want to connect with people they trust, and they really want to connect with people whose values align with theirs. And there's a really good, it's a good TED talk actually by Simon Sinek. Very, very popular one. If you haven't ever watched it, I suggest you do. It's very, very good. So it's by Simon Sinek, and it's all about why great leaders fail. And of course, he's talking about leaders, but we can apply the same logic. He basically says there's three things you can talk about as a leader or as a brand, as a person. And that's what, how, and why. And a lot of people just talk about the what. And so to give you an example of this, so he, in his presentation, used Apple. And he said, the why. The why is like your purpose. Well, why are you doing what you do? So he said Apple's why is that they believe in challenging the status quo and doing things differently. So how they do that is they build beautifully designed products that are really easy to use. What they actually do is they make videos. Right? So you can see the kind of layers. And when you think about Apple marketing and their social media, at no time are they pushing their watch. Right? If they just posted about their computers, they wouldn't have the brand they have today. Instead, what they're posting about is their why, their purpose, the fact that they're pushing the status quo, they're creative, they're quirky, they're doing things differently. Right? They're actually focusing on their why. And we can take this learning and we can use that. So instead of us focusing on our what, which is product, we can say, well, what is our purpose, right? Why are we pushing this product? What does this mean to us? Why did we start this in the first place? And a little bit of homework for you guys tonight is to answer these questions, right? Think about what you do, how you do it, why you do it. And I actually find it easier sometimes to start with the why, kind of work your way down. But the why to me is the easiest question to answer is, why did you start working with USANA products? What about them? Is it that you want to help people? Is it that you feel really passionately about a certain problem that you had that you were fixing, or a certain audience, or what is it? Do you think that everyone should be able to feel joy and happiness, or like what is that kind of, I guess, like higher purpose that you have that really drives, that gets you out of bed in the morning? Because that why, that is your personal brand, right? That is your story. That is actually what you're going to be creating content about. 100%. We are going to talk about our what, and our product is going to feature in those posts. But what we're actually going to talk about is our why, because that's what's going to drive those connections with people, build our communities, build the trust, and therefore build our sales over the long term as well. I think, it's a very well-known thing that stories sell, right? There's a lot of good, research around this, and a lot of good examples where things sell simply because of the amazing story attached, and that people have connected with the story, not because, the product is any better than another product, or the price is cheaper, or the shipping is better. They're not evaluating the tangibles of the product. They're evaluating the intangibles of that brand, and that brand is you guys. So stories do actually sell. I think at this point you're probably like, great, this all sounds well and good, Jordan, but even with our why, even knowing your story, what do we actually talk about on social media? How do we know what to post? And you're in the right place, because I'm going to give you guys some kind of ways to think about this, and some tools to help you. So the first thing we go back to is our customers. And we think about them, we think, okay, how can we give them value? What do we know that we can share? What is our expertise? How can we share our wisdom and our knowledge with these people? I think this comes back to always giving before asking. So I think we're kind of in this, this world now where people really expect you to give something, And you see a lot of people doing like, download this free PDF and it's packed full of amazing things. And you think, man, why are they giving this away for free? It's because we really kind of expect a brand to give us something before we buy something from them. And that could be something as simple as, helpful tips on Instagram, which is ideally what we're going to plan today. But you really do have to be prepared to, give before you ask someone to buy from you. I think just make sure before we jump into creating this content, remember your tone of voice, right? It needs to be reflective of you as a person. If you are a funny person, great, like be funny, bring humor to your post. That is you being genuine. That is your personal brand. If you are, really passionate about something, great. That is also your personal brand. If you are passionate about sustainability, bring that in. If you're passionate about, certain topics, or you're passionate about reality TV, that could be your niche. Whatever it is, bring all of that in, because it is all part of what makes you unique and what makes people connect with you over someone else. So the actual content, I'll go back to the content. What good content looks like, it is pretty simple. It shares your story, like I've been banging on about storytelling. It connects with your audience. It's authentic, like I said. It's engaging. I always kind of do a check before I post something, and I read it myself. And I think, would this actually be interesting to me? If I wasn't myself and I was someone reading this, is this interesting, or is this engaging? How can I make it more engaging or more interesting? Think about making sure that it looks good. There's tools like Canva, which is so simple to use, so easy to make this look good. Does it educate your audience? Does it teach them something? Does it solve a pain point of theirs? All these things make great content. Does it create a community of people? Does it bring people together in common interests or common problems they're having, or topics? And I think probably the most important thing on that slide there is it's not a hard sell. If you think that you're going to be able to jump on Instagram or jump on Facebook and just post photos of product saying buy now, you are going to fail really, really badly. You will not get followers and you will not get engagement, right? This is really, really important. I think a big mistake people make is we can't just sell, right? People don't want to be sold to. They want to engage with people. They want a connection. And so we can't rely on that for our content. So on the next slide, I've got a good example of just brand storytelling that doesn't feel like, it's not a huge long novel. It's not some kind of like crazy unattainable example. So on the left-hand side, I've just taken a Usana branded post, something that you would all have access to, and it's just got the copy there, new product, just landed on site, click the link and buy to get yours. Now, we've talked a bit about brand storytelling, but storytelling and your brand is actually what's going to make you unique. So if all we do is share the same content that every single person has access to, then there's nothing unique about that. We're not inserting our own stories. We're not inserting our own kind of thoughts or feelings or struggles or anything into that post. Whether if we juxtapose that with the example on the right, which is me, it is trying to make it something that people can actually connect with, right? So the example there is a photo of me with the facial oil product. Video also works really well with this if you're comfortable enough to jump on stories or reels or go live. But this example here says, I've been struggling so much with dry skin through COVID. All that mask wearing is definitely not doing my face any wonders. And with everything starting to open back up, I was really starting to panic about how I could get my skin looking and feeling better before a whole summer of social outings. In November, I started using Usana's facial oil, and I really feel like it's helped me get things under control. I've been using it at night as part of my cleansing routine, and I can really see the difference. Seriously, I even got a compliment from Grandma at our Christmas lunch, who is known for being hard to please. Let me know if you want a full rundown of my nighttime routine. So, a couple of things to point out in this piece of copy. One is that it doesn't feel super salesy, right? I don't really say like you can buy the product here or you can buy it for this price. It's really that like more conversational tone of saying, hey, here's my story, here's how it helped me. Let me know if you want to chat as well, and I can kind of give you my advice on what worked for me. And I think that conversational tone works so much better of building a community and trust and feeling more genuine than, I guess the post on the right-hand side there. And even things like putting my personality into it. So, a bit of a joke there around grandma at Christmas lunch and even the style of the post, right? It's not like a really like posed and I guess like ingenuine type photo. It is something that just feels like, it's a quick photo I snapped while I was in the bathroom in the morning, which is exactly what it is. But I think also, when you actually read through it, that whole idea, like we said about, I relate to you, I understand you, I'm just like you. I want you to read that and say, oh my God, that's exactly like me. Oh, my skin has been so bad in COVID. I want you to be able to relate to my story to then listen to what I have to say, which you're not going to do with the example on the right. And I think, this whole idea of brand storytelling, I think people think of it as like brand storytelling means I have to share a story every single time, right? I have to have this like big, long story, narrative, beginning, middle, and end. That's not what brand storytelling is. Brand storytelling is just consistently creating content that aligns with your story, right? So when I look at someone's Instagram, a good test is I look at someone's last, say, 12 posts, and I say, can I figure out what their why is, what their purpose is from their posts? And so you should be able to look at someone's post and say, okay, I think their purpose is, helping people live a healthier life, or like easy ways to make yourself feel better. Or I think like what their purpose is really trying to like give mums more time in their day. Whatever it may be, you should be able to look at someone's content and be able to figure that out. And if you can't, they're not actually creating content that tells their story. You don't have to literally put it in black and white. This is my story. This is my why. This is why I'm doing things. The content you share should actually reflect whatever that is. And I like to think of one of the easiest ways to help you start to think this way is actually think of yourself as a publisher. So I always think, okay, I've got my audience. If I was a magazine, right, if my personal brand was a magazine, why would people subscribe and what would be in that magazine, right? If you think about magazines you might have paid for a monthly subscription, what was so good in that magazine that you had to have on your doorstep every month? What was so good about it? What kind of information did they share? What interesting things, what stories, what was in that magazine that was so good? If you could replicate that on your social media, that's a great kind of bar to hold yourself to. And a kind of check that I always do for myself anyway is I ask myself, would someone pay $1 to follow me on Instagram or Facebook for that matter? And if someone wouldn't pay $1, I am not making my content valuable enough. Right? If someone would not pay $1 to follow you on Instagram, then the content is not of what level it needs to be. So really think like, what value can I bring someone? They really want to follow. They want this information. It's valuable to them. It's so interesting to them. They would actually pay $1 for it by us. Very, very good check-in with yourself to know whether or not you're kind of hitting the value box there. Now, I talk about this all the time. It's my favorite kind of saying in content marketing and social media marketing. A good rule to hold yourself against is never pushing what you want them to know, but pulling people in with what they want to spend time on. So if you are putting a post out there and you're talking about a product, you're talking about all the benefits, you're talking about all these things, but you're just pushing information onto people, take the time to say, okay, do people actually want to know this information, right? Or am I just pushing information? Am I just selling or basically doing an ad? How can I reframe this to be useful information that people actually want to spend time on or with or reading or viewing rather than just, forcing information on them? Very, very good to check in with before you post. Now, The third step, the third thing that we need to think about then is, okay, we've thought about all of these things, about our audience, about our story, about what our why is. How does that now translate into content? How can we plan? How can we kind of make this process actually an easy enough one that we do it, and we do it in a way that brings us success. So planning is going to be your savior here. The best thing you can do is plan. I like to create a content calendar or use a tool, and I've got my favorite one coming up to share with you. So I have my calendar, and what I do is I start with key dates and I kind of build around it. So the first thing I might do is, I've got, let's say, February content coming up. I say, okay, right, February 14th, Valentine's Day. All right, there might be a public holiday over here. Okay, it's, international this day over here. It's my birthday on this day. And I kind of fill in to make sure that I'm talking about tropical things. And then I go in and I start to put some other ideas into that calendar. And a really easy way that can help you with this is by using content themes. And I'm going to walk you through that in a second. But outside of that, using content templates or using style guides, I think Canva is your absolute best friend here. If you don't use Canva, it's honestly a lifesaver for social media posts. But I think, don't rely too much on designed content. We are people, and like I said, people connect with people. So we do want to, share us as much as possible and not rely on kind of designed content if we can. We want to batch content and schedule as well. If we can do 2 weeks of content at a time and push it out, that's going to save you a lot of time. We want to make sure we can cross-post and repurpose things across Facebook, Instagram, if you're on other channels as well. And make sure you're blocking out time for community management. So replying to people's comments, replying to people's DMs, liking people's comments, just actually being an active member of the community on top of posting your content on feed, stories, and reels and whatnot. Now, when I talk about content pillars, really, I guess another mistake people make is they create content pillars that are not brand driven, not personal brand driven. So the example here, you might say, okay, every week I post 4 posts. I post a meme, an offer, a testimonial, and one about a product. Now, while these can help us plan, they are not going to help tell our story, right? What I talked about earlier is how can our content reflect what our story is? And so instead of these kind of organizational pillars, what I like to do is say, okay, what is my story? What is my personal brand? And I'm going to make content pillars that remind me to talk about those things, because that's what's going to connect with my audience. And 100% the product is going to feature within those, but this is actually what's going to help build my personal brand on social media. So on Mondays, I might talk about, things that help connect me with my family, activities to do with them, things to do with them. On Tuesdays, I talk about easy ways to look after yourself. On Thursdays, I talk about, easy morning routines. And on Fridays, I always talk about, reviews and thoughts. I give really honest product walkthroughs and feedback. And so all of these things together really reflect my personal brand. And over time, that should really connect with my audience. And, whether I even talk about my product in all of those, or whether sometimes connecting with my family is just tips for connecting with your family. It doesn't have to do anything to do with the product, but it's building that personal brand for when you are talking about the product, you've got that connection with those people. I have many very different ways that I do content calendars, but one of the easiest ways I do it is honestly an Excel spreadsheet, right? I set up a calendar, I color code it with my content buckets. I say, okay, here's my 4 content buckets. I put those on my content calendar, and then I fill those out. And whatever way works for you. But I guess if you're struggling with that content theme kind of process, just always bring it back to what is going to help tell your story, right? If you had to do 4 posts this week, and those 4 posts together told someone what your personal brand is, what would those 4 posts be? Really, really easy way to figure out that process. Now, very, very last step. Just a couple of tools and tips to help you to kind of make this as easy as possible. As I said, the first one is easy, free. It's called Facebook Creator Studio. And within Facebook Creator Studio, you can schedule all of your Instagram and Facebook posts. So if you are an organized person and you've got a bit of a calendar and you've prepared maybe a week content at a time, you can jump in there and pre-schedule everything. So all of a sudden it becomes, a once a week job and really easy to manage rather than, every day feeling like this chore that you have to do. My personal favorite, there is a free and a paid tier, but the paid tier is 100% worth it. It's called Plan, PLANN. And it's a whole heap of really, really handy tools in there, but you can schedule across Facebook and Instagram. But what you can do is also plan out your feed. You can put all your content pillars in there and kind of plan in advance for that. I highly recommend jumping on and having a look if you haven't. It's definitely my personal favorite for tools to just help from an admin point of view. And a couple more from a content creation point of view. I've mentioned Canva. I love Canva. It's honestly, hands down, best platform for creating content, of course, from a design point of view. It's mostly free. There are a few kind of paid things in there, but 80% of it is free. There's a website called Envato Elements, which is a really, really handy kind of library of templates and assets and things. I use that a lot and get unlimited downloads for a one-off cost per year. Unsplash is really good for shop photography. If you ever need something just to kind of put in a background, I wouldn't suggest using stock photography in your feed because, again, we want that to be something unique that people are connecting with you. So there, if you need it for a background or something, but not necessarily for your feed. And of course, the platforms, right? Use Instagram, use Facebook. Things like Instagram have amazing editing capabilities. Things like Instagram Reels are just so good for creating content. Don't be afraid to just stick to the platforms and jump on there and create content. Now, my last tips for you guys, a few here to go before I wrap it up. Utilize all of the formats. Instagram Reels are amazing at the moment. Algorithms love them. They're getting a lot of organic reach. Always think about, would you follow you? I think that's a really easy way to check in with yourself and say, is this content actually interesting? Would I follow it? If not, how can I make it more interesting? Look at competitors, don't copy them. I never want to see people copying competitors, but think about, what are they doing well? What are they not doing well? Where are the gaps that I can maybe bring something to this audience? Be as active as you possibly can, don't be afraid to be yourself. Get on camera, jump on stories, talk. It's always a scary thing to do, but that is how you're going to build a personal brand and build connections with people and in the long term sell things to those people. Try everything at least once. Don't kind of discount something before you've tried it because you never know what's going to work. Plan as much as you possibly can because I know socials can always fall down that to-do list. And just always overlay your story over everything. Everything that you do, always say, how can I bring this back to my personal brand and my story and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And, if I had multiple hours in the day, I would love to go further in depth with you guys, but I don't. So once you've got the basics down packed, honestly, there is so much you can do with social. I think it's such an exciting platform for you guys to explore. I think there is so much opportunity for success and to really build something amazing on there. So once you have kind of got that basic, content pillars and planning and figuring out who you are and your audience down packed, have a think about, what more you can do on there. You can sync up your Instagram shopping feeds, then, sync up anytime you link a product to your website so that you can sell on there. We can do links in Instagram stories. We can get a lot of engagement with Instagram story stickers. We can use Instagram Reels a lot more. We can go live. We can engage in Facebook groups. We can really, get into community management and proactively outreach to potential customers and, things like Linktree in our Instagram bio to really make the most of that link. There's so many exciting opportunities on Instagram and Facebook. I think spend the time exploring it because to me, this is the opportunity that you guys have to really grow things. So that is all I've got time for today. I really, really hope you guys loved the session and got some stuff out of it. Like I said, I think it's such an awesome tool and an awesome platform for building businesses and building brands. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the conference and good luck with everything.
Yan, tapos na ulit siya.